The Kenyan government is seeking a framework that would allow Uganda to begin producing food in a planned manner for a market that is assured in Kenya in order to reduce Kenya's food insecurity and increase income for Ugandan farmers. Latest data shows a likely unprecedented deterioration in Kenya's food security situation, with over 5.4 million people experiencing acute food insecurity between March and June this year, and likely to deepen in the following months.
So what we are looking at is in terms of if Uganda has got excess capacity, and as a neighbor, can it support Kenya in terms of food in a structured manner, and not in the manner where traders come, they buy maize from Uganda, excess maize, they go to Kenya. It is not a structured manner. Secondly, in that also the government of Kenya cannot plan, cannot actually know how much food is going to get from Uganda. So we want a situation where we are sure that we are going to grow together a certain amount of maize, for example. We know that if it is grown between January and end of harvesting, end of April, the government of Kenya can know that we are going to get 1 million bags of maize from Uganda and plan for that. So that is why I wanted to, after having a lot of discussions with all the other stakeholders, we wanted now to go out to the field and have a feel of really what is happening and see what structures are there, see what is available, so that as we go back we can sit down and now come up with a plan and sell this plan to our governments and see how we can support each other.
Urgent action is therefore required to reduce food gaps, protect livelihoods and treat acute malnutrition. A delegation of private sector players, accompanied by the Kenyan High Commissioner to Uganda, His Excellency General George Aggrey Owino, therefore made a field tour of the districts of Kiryandongo, Lida, Dokolo, Lamu and Amuria, aiming at assessing the gains so far made and the challenges faced by smallholder farmers and processors. The visit was sponsored by Third Capital and Investment, an entity that offers financial support to agro-enterprises. The team, which included representatives from Uganda Breweries, NCBA Bank, Finca, Emlet Insurance, and the American Chamber of Commerce, also held a face-to-face engagements with the respective districts and civic leaders, as well as the communities and farmers groups, in order to appreciate the pertinent issues and what more must be done to make northern Uganda the food basket for the Great Lakes region. The main objective of the field visit was to highlight and assess the progress so far made in regard to boosting food security through smallholder agricultural production. According to a 2014 report by the World Bank, Uganda has 6.9 million hectares of land, which represents 34.1% of the country's total land area. Regardless of this estimate, the country considers 71.9% of its land area to be agricultural land. Additionally, about 11% of the total land area is under permanent crops, while forest cover 14%. Only 35% of the Uganda's agricultural land is being utilized and is often characterized by poor farming methods and tools. Much as there's a fertile land in Uganda, farmers in northern Uganda highlighted a number of challenges like lack of affordable access to capital, rudimentary farming, lack of agricultural insurance, poor market for their products. Third Capital and Investment Limited, which was part of the delegation, believes access to finance by farmers is one of the biggest problems which can be handled.
Doesn't have money to buy the produce, the quantity that the off-takers want. So because we discussed with our partner banks, said Shamba Bora needs, say, 500 million, but it doesn't have a land title to pledge as collateral. So what we do, we tell the bank, our partner banks, give that money, we shall manage the stock until you get paid back.
Since we have the land, since we have the manpower, our community need to be supported. We need a soft loan whereby the community can borrow so that they can access the modern equipment. Because when you go to the community right now, and when you find them farming, they're still using the rudimentary tools. The horse, this djembe here. And the most modernized equipment for now is the oxflow, whereby they tie two bulls, then they move with one is sensing from here. And when you move around in the community, when you find bulls with a lot of wounds on the back, meaning those are the bulls they use for oxflow. So we told them, please provide for us equipment, put for us service center.
Reports indicate that Kenya is in a dire need of beans, coffee, sorghum, maize, rice and cassava, among others. Kenyan farmers were urged to coordinate with their counterparts in Uganda for better trade. Investors like Shamba Bora, based in Kiriandongo, and Tour Uganda in Lira, considers Uganda's agricultural potential to be among the best in Africa, but are being constrained by lack of power and poor roads to transport their produce, as well as limited market.
It took us 2 weeks because of, again, as you know, right now there's a lot of interruption of power. Even right now we've received that we are going to miss power every alternative day from today until 10 September. There's no power. So those are some of the challenges we are going through. So it depends. It's all about power. Everything else is set up.
Now from then on, challenges were access to finance. You could see the road network is so poor. There's no way you could take off produce, and then there's no way you could easily access the farm. There are days when you'd come and it has rained so heavily, you see that bridge under construction, it would burst. Then there's no other way of accessing the farm. So you have to go back. So for about a month, I was commuting from Gulu to Amuru, until we set up the accommodation structures.
Before Shamba Bora, we had the challenge of market, whereby farmers would sell maize at least even at 500, but right now, at least we are sure at least we can begin at 1,000 and going up. And at least if a farmer follows the gap, at least in an acre, you can get around 2 to 3 tons. And but otherwise, the other time, you would at least get, so a farmer who has worked well and at least would get around 800 kilograms, which was too low for production for a farmer to get something there to sustain him.
According to the report by the International Trade Administration to the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization, commercialization of the sector is impeded by farmers' limited use of fertilizers and quality seeds and a lack of irrigation infrastructure, rendering production vulnerable to climate extremes. In March 2021, the Kenyan government banned Uganda's maize exports after the Agriculture and Food Authority in Kenya said that the maize contained aflatoxins which can cause cancer. In the same month, Kenya also banned maize imports from Tanzania after discovering the presence of smaller contamination. Taking his take, the ambassador noted that all these problems can end through working together.
Shamba Bora will be responsible for production of maize to the standards required. That means they'll start with the farmer from the time the farmer is growing, tell the farmer the correct fertilizer, actually give the farmer the correct fertilizer, take the farmer all that journey until harvesting. Then do post-harvesting activities, storage. Yeah, the gentleman there said they also take care of storage. So they make sure that there is storage and they make sure that there is transportation. So you don't leave it to the farmer individually, because the farmer does not know to what extent should you dry your maize, what percentage is acceptable. So in that chain also you have a dryer. Yeah? With experts, their job is drying. Then you'll have storage, whose experts are in storage. And then you have transporters. So I think if we work together in that chain, then we're able to be dealing with the aflatoxin issues.
I would want to encourage you to continue like that and remain in touch with us. We are going to be with you until Africa will get what we really need.
Kenya, like any other African countries, faces a number of challenges when it comes to food security. Despite being an agricultural country with a significant proportion of its population engaged in farming, Kenya still struggles to feed its people adequately. With the country's population expected to double in the next 30 years, it is important that the government takes action to address these challenges and ensure that all Kenyans have access to nutritious and affordable food.
Then it rolls to the dryer, and then
To address these challenges, therefore, the Kenya's ambassador to Uganda, His Excellency George Aggrey Owino, hopes to have the two governments on a round-table discussion to prioritize food security and investing in the agricultural sector. This should include supporting small-scale farmers through training, access to credit and improved infrastructure, and limiting trade barriers.
One of the pillars of integration is integrating our economies. That means that we'll be having a common currency, we'll be having a common economy. That is the direction we want to go. Now, that is the direction that we want to go, in that it will eliminate what we call non-tariff barriers in trade. There are certain barriers in trade that should not be there, should be removed. If I'm exporting milk from Uganda to Kenya, why should Kenyans charge tax on that and you give me the milk? I normally say, I ask Kenyans, somebody is bringing you food, you don't have food. And somebody at the border says you pay tax for this food, and you don't have the food. It doesn't make sense. So I think the governments have been working together to deal with those. In fact, as of last week, at the East Africa community level, there was a technical meeting that was looking at these trade barriers. And there were 10 trade barriers that were identified, and 6 of them were resolved country to country. In the coming month, there's an EAC meeting again that will go at the ministerial level now. What was not resolved at the technical level will be resolved at the ministerial level. And at the ministerial level, they cannot resolve. It will go to the principal now, the heads of state, to resolve and say, okay, this is what we have agreed on in terms of import and export of commodities across the countries. So that is there's a structure that deals with that. And unfortunately, it has not been completed. But once in a while, you hear this problem, somebody at the border point does not understand some of those things and inconveniences. But there's a structure now for all the governments of the EAC to deal with those trade barriers.
That under the framework of East African community, we are able to carry out production with well-synchronized market within the EAC. So for the ambassador of Kenya, the High Commissioner of Kenya, to come to Dokolo, to northern Uganda, and assure us of what we already knew, that Kenya is a good market for us, but the ambassador to come and reassure us is very humbling. He has made a clear statement that the market is there. So what we have to respond to, if the market is there, what should we do to ensure that we supply this market? That is the greatest thing which we have to do, to produce quality items to satisfy this market.
The governments also need to promote sustainable agricultural practices that reduce the impact of climate change and increase productivity. This could include the use of drought-resistant crops, irrigation system, and agroforestry techniques. Food security is a complex issue that requires a comprehensive and coordinated response from both Kenya and Ugandan governments, civil society organizations, and international partners with the right policies and investment. Africa can therefore overcome its food security challenges and ensure that all its citizens have access to nutritious and affordable food. Petson Mumbere for Smart 24 TV.